All right, if you have watched my previous video on how to open SPSS syntax and retrieve data, you should now know how to get data imported into SPSS. If you have not watched my previous video, please do. Now, one of the first statistical procedures that you should run after importing your data is to inspect your data. To do this, you'll need to run Descriptive Statistics. In the case that you have two or more groups that are grouped by a variable, you should split your variable using split file to get descriptive statistics for each group. Now, I already have my data from using the syntax from the last video, and I have my syntax to now split file. As you can see, I'm going to first sort the cases by the variable. This is my independent variable, party, which is political party broken up into two groups, Democrats and Republicans. I will now split the file by the independent variable. Okay, the procedure is done. Now I want to run descriptive statistics for those two groups by my dependent variable, which is lies. I'm asking for mean, standard deviation, minimum and maximum values. All right, I have my values here. So the way we would read this is, for political party 0 and political party 1, we're going to have descriptive statistics for each of those groups. Let's say 0 is Republican and 1 is Democrat, for this example. So the way you would read this is, there are 50 participants who identified as Republican and 50 participants who identified as Democrats. For Republicans, the minimum number of lies was 6.7. And the maximum number of lies were 15. There were probably some decimals because they couldn't really determine whether the lies were actual lies or kind of a lie. The average number of lies for Republicans was 12.13 or 12.14 if you want to round up, with a standard deviation of 2.1. For Democrats, the minimum number of lies were 8, pretty clear. The maximum number of lies were 16.6. The average number of lies was 12.9, or let's just say 13. And the standard deviation was 2.17. So looking at this, you can determine a few things. First, we have a even split of sampling, 50 Republicans and 50 Democrats. Next, we can see that there were people who are Republican who lied less than the number of lies Democrats had for the minimum. Between both groups, Democrats had the most lies. Someone lied quite a bit. So you can see a trend going on there. Republicans have a person with the least lies between two groups, and Democrats had a person with the most lies between the two groups. The averages are pretty similar. They differ based on some decimal values, but that could be meaningful. Standard deviation is pretty similar, so I'm going to assume that we're going to have some homogeneity of variance when we get to that point. In any case, this is your descriptive statistics, well, at least for this example. Now, before you go forward and do any other analysis, turn the split file off. That would bring your two levels back to one independent variable. As you can see, it says split file off. Now, let's rerun the descriptive statistics without the split file and see what it looks like. Go back up here, get behind the period, push your green button. And you have your descriptive statistics. So let's compare the two. If we were to look at the variable by itself of political party, now breaking it down by groups, but just everybody who's part of this political party, there's 100 people, 50 Democrats and 50 Republicans. The minimum number of lies across the board was 6.77, and we now know that that was a Republican, with the maximum number of lies being 16.60, and we know that that belonged to a member of the Democrat Party. The average between the two groups was 12.5, which with a standard deviation of 2.17. All right, now that we have conducted our analyses, it's time to write up the results. What I would write, or what I've written for my results, I wrote descriptive statistics were conducted on the number of lies between Republicans and Democrats. On average, Democrats told more lies than Republicans. I provided the means of both groups and the standard deviations of both groups. Now, this doesn't tell us if there is a meaningful, or rather a significant, difference between the two groups, specifically the number of lies between each political party. So, in the next video, I'm going to be showing you how to use SPSS syntax to do two things. The first thing is to conduct assumptions tests, which are needed before you can infer anything with results. And the second thing, of course, will be to conduct an independent t-test. So make sure to tune in for our next video.